Walker, what do you make of him joining the race?
I think he's positioned well to win the Republican primary. I think it's questionable whether he can actually win the national election. But I think at this early stage, with so many candidates, it's really just a game of Russian roulette. Who's going to make gaffes? Who can show that they can stand up to the scrutiny that the media is going to put on them and really has the capability to run a presidential
Would you
campaign.
rather him win the nomination than a Jeb Bush?
I think Jeb Bush has a better chance of winning because I think he can get a higher share of the Hispanic vote and the immigrant vote. And I think that all the other candidates, except perhaps Marco Rubio, are going to have a difficult time with that.
Right.
I think that Jeb has a built-in advantage there, which makes him more electable in the general election. I think 60% of Republicans historically have gone for the most electable candidates.
So Romney, as we just detailed, hosted this retreat where he had Marco Rubio there and Chris Christie. Were you surprised that he had those two guys at this retreat?
He had almost, I was there, by the way, but he had almost everybody from the middle to the center, if you will.
Okay.
So no Ted Cruz's, but everybody else was there except for Jeb. Jeb's son was there. I think Jeb was in London at the time. So they were all making their pitches to Republican donors, but it included almost everybody.
Okay, well, who do you think he'll go with? Romney.
Mitt?
Yeah. Where will Mitt go?
I don't want to speak for Mitt, but if I had to guess, I would guess probably Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush, I would guess, because I think he thinks those guys probably have the best chance of winning.
And who do you like?
I could go with either of the two candidates I just mentioned as well.
Right.
I've raised money for Jeb because I believe that he is able to get a high share of the Hispanic vote, and that makes him a much more, I believe,
so
formidable
will you raise
candidate.
money again for Jeb?
I would raise money for Jeb, and I would raise money for other moderate candidates as well.
Okay. Hillary Clinton, as we had mentioned, right, she detailed her economic agenda earlier this morning. And I believe we have some sound from her speech this morning, guys. And this is on the Buffett Rule, actually, on taxation. Okay, let's roll that.
Those at the top have to pay their fair share. That's why I support the Buffett Rule, which makes sure that millionaires don't pay lower rates than their secretaries.
What do you make of that?
I think the truth is that if you look at the taxes paid by income, that they go up substantially as people earn more income. It's true that the capital gains rate is lower today than it has been in the past. I think there's two views about how the economy works. One is we're just waiting for animal spirits and demand to pick up, and the other is that demand is a function of risk-taking. Risk-taking is largely a function of equity, and if you tax success, you're going to get less success, less accumulation of equity, and as a result, slower growth.
Okay, but you just sort of dismissed that one point about capital gains taxes being lower than they were before. I mean, that's a big point.
Yeah, I think the Buffett Rule is raising capital gains taxes.
Right. So that sticks in the craw of middle-class Americans. So here she is saying that she's going to roll that back.
I think it's a very popular stand, and it may very well prevail in the election. I think it probably ends up doing more damage than good for our economy because, as I said, I think our economy is driven by the amount of risk, its capacity for risk-taking. For example, in a recession, why does the economy pull back? It starts bumping up against its capacity for risk-taking, and it dials back risk-taking, both consumption and investment, to compensate for that. If we had an infinite amount of equity, we would have no economic cycles because no one would have any fear of taking risks.
Then what do you make of the widening income gap then?
Well, I believe that there's two economies. There's one that scales up with the economy. So Taylor Swift, for example, or innovation. If you come up with something in that economy, it's going to be very big.
I love how you, of all the people you've chosen, Taylor.
I have a 12-year-old daughter.
Did you just speak to her before you came on air?
No, but I listen to a lot of Taylor Swift when I'm in the car.
All right, so you've got Taylor Swift, who represents the innovative economy.
Well, it scales up with the total size of the economy and with the world economy. And then you have teachers, doctors, who scale with the individual, plumbers. They can't grow with the world economy. They can service 50 customers or 100 customers, and they're limited at that level. So over time, you're going to see that people who access the world economy are going to grow very large relative to individuals. That has been America's strength, and as a result, our employment has grown 2 times faster than Germany and France.
But you're talking about leaving doctors and lawyers behind?
I don't think that the success of the 1% affects the pay of doctors, lawyers, school teachers, truck drivers. I think it increases the demand for labor, and you can see that in the growth of American labor relative to the rest of the high-wage world. We've been twice as fast as France and Germany. What restricts wages is the supply of labor. In the United States, we have 50 million foreign-born adults and their native-born children, and we run a 16. Imports are 16% of GDP, but even in balanced trade, we're buying low-skilled labor and we're selling high-skilled labor to the world. That's going to drive down low-skilled wages and drive up high-skilled wages. So I think that American innovators have done their job.
We're also importing high-skilled.
Largely, we're importing $3-4 an hour.
Yeah, but I mean, but this is why Democrats want to reform immigration.
I don't disagree with them. I think that it puts pressure on wages. Any increase in the supply of labor will put pressure on wages.
So ultimately, I know, Ed, you're not a fan of the Obama administration and what they've done.
Yeah.
So would you be
more of a fan than people realize? But keep going.
Okay, but would you be less of a fan or more of a fan if, in fact, Hillary Clinton won the White House?
I think she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think that she recognizes that to win the election, she needs to steer to the center, although she has to keep her more radical elements of the party in check because she doesn't want to be outflanked on the left by another candidate. But I think ultimately she's a continuation of the Obama administration, which has not produced high growth and rising middle-class wages.